Hi, good morning everyone. What are we doing today?
Neshama, Mordechai Israel Tzvi,
Mordechai Israel Tzvi,
and Moshe Aaron.
Moshe Aaron. Is he outside today?
It's on this week.
This week, B'ezras Hashem, Shavei Neshama, B'zchut all the Torah land here. Okay, good morning everyone. We're here again in the Alshech doing the 138 openings of wisdom from the Ramchal HaKadosh. We're up to opening number 4. B'ezras Hashem, Hashem should merit us to connect to the holy souls of the tzaddikim, Ramchal, Arizal, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Moshe Rabbeinu, and all the tzaddikim that revealed the truths of Torah to us. And we should be able to understand and practically apply these things in our lives and know how to live in Hashem's world. So let's do this. Petach Dalet. So today we're going to be talking about the most famous Ramchal subject, which I think probably, if anyone has anything from Ramchal, it's probably this subject. And it's the subject of the need for avoda, the need for service of Hashem in order to bestow good and reward. Why can't Hashem just give us free good? Why can't it just be unlimited shefa that we get without any work? So let's see inside the Mishnah, the original, this opening paragraph. Ratzah ha'en sof baruch hu. The infinite one, the Ein Sof, wanted liyot mitiv hatava shleima. He wanted to give us a complete good. Shelo yeh afilu boshet lamakablim ota. It shouldn't even be embarrassing or shameful to receive this good. And therefore, v'shi'er, and he thought and planned legalot befoal yichudo hashalem. He wanted to practically apply, meaning openly show that Hashem is the only power in the world, the only existence. She'en shum mania nimtzat lefanav. There is no power that can withhold or compete. V'lo shum chisaron. There is no lack in Hashem and Hashem's goodness. And therefore, lachen sam hanaga azot shu menaheg. Therefore, he implied this way of governing the world. Sheba yeh b'poal hachzarat hara letov. So Hashem is good, and whatever He reveals is good. But He wanted to actually do a experiment, or not really an experiment, but rather a revelation of the good, and to reveal something that has to be a theoretical, hypothetical opposite, and it being supposed to be able to challenge the power of good, and then once the power of good is proven to be the only existing power, then that is actually revealing it in reality. It's not just potential. Is there any way to lower the heat again, or is it not
lower?
Yeah, like put off the heat. Like I'm just very hot. Sorry. Wow, thank you. So the way he did this was Hashem gave the possibility for evil, for bad to do its thing, לעשות את שלו. אבל בסוף הכל כבר, כל קלקול נתקן וכל רעה חוזר לטובה ממש. All of this will eventually lead to the good, והרי ייחוד מתגלה, and therefore Hashem's oneness will be revealed, שהוא עצמו תענוגן של נשמות, which is the actual reward. Now, I remember having this question when I was told about this idea that Hashem has to create nisyanot, or possible evil, for us to overcome it in order to deserve the reward, right? So the obvious question is, if Hashem's creating the world from scratch, He can kind of just create the world in a way where it's not shameful to receive free goods. Like, why is it inherent that receiving free goods is shameful? You can ask it also on a more simple level of like, some people can just live off someone else and kind of just I'm enjoying it, like not focus on the fact that it's free There's more of a shallow way of asking the same question, kind of, that, like, I don't want this difficulty, you know? Why are you forcing me to choose? If it's all about my good, I choose to get free goods. I'll deal with the shame. I don't mind living off, mooching off someone for get $1 million every month, right? But the same answer is really this. I think the Baal Sulam touches upon this when he talks about this idea, and Baal Sulam explains it on a deeper level, where he says that, as we'll see, Ramchal is going to explain to us that really the only good that exists is Hashem being one with Hashem, the dveikut in Hashem, meaning being connected with our source of life, without any obstacle, without any distance. Now, spiritually speaking, or soul speaking, distance isn't based on physical proximity, right? Distance is only based on likeness, right? If someone has an opinion, shares an opinion with someone, then they're close to them. If someone hates someone or disagrees completely in their worldview, they could be in the same room, but there's no connection between them, because they have opposite agendas and they're clashing. So when we say that Hashem wanted to give us sechar, Hashem wanted us to be mamish connected to Hashem, He wanted us to be one with Him and receive His full goodness. Now, if that would have been free, then we would be the most distant from Hashem. Why? Because Hashem is all giving. Hashem is the only source of pure, unconditional giving, and we would be the only source of unconditional receiving. Now that is creating the biggest distance, because we're just opposite. We're just on literally the opposite ends of the spectrum. He's only giving, we're only receiving. Right. So actually, by definition, there cannot be the reward, which is closeness to Hashem, but for free.
I see.
So there has to be a system where, and this is something that doesn't really make sense, because by definition God is only able to give, because He doesn't have anything to receive. There is nothing to fix. There is nothing to do in this world, right? When Hashem started the world, there was nothing to do. It was all perfect. So Hashem, in His great wisdom, created this reality that we exist in, where for us, it really is a challenge to do the right thing. Hashem made it so real, the opposite of good, that because in our reality, doing the right thing and connecting to Hashem and being less self-centered is opposite of our nature, then we actually are fixing something. And this is the trip, you could say, of like Hashem being perfect at the same time, but created us in an imperfect reality. And because from our perspective it actually is hard, then we're actually achieving something. Now, and therefore we can then receive the reward, which is the knowledge and proximity in closeness to Hashem, which is actually what we created. So Ramchal is going to take us through this process where we are put into a place where the opposite of Hashem is the natural order. We then go through the process of breaking through that lie and revealing the truth.
And choosing Hashem nevertheless.
Choosing Hashem nevertheless, when it's actually the odds are stacked against us. And therefore we basically created Hashem's unity in the world, which in itself is the reward. What we basically, in a way you could say it, we created Hashem's unity, or we could say we created our soul. We perfected our soul, which is the same thing, because really our souls are part of Hashem. So every Jew receives a part of Hashem, so to speak, that is dysfunctional, if you could say that about a soul.
Or disconnected.
Disconnected, right, hidden and not revealing its true essence. And then what we do is we basically don't get fooled by it, and we know the plan, and that's really the whole idea of Torah, is to know what we're here for, not to get distracted by what seems to be what we want. Right? It says, the Mishnah says, who is strong? Ezeu Gibor, hakovesh et Yitzro, one who conquers his inclination, right? His evil inclination. Now the Batanura there points out, hakovesh et Yitzro, meaning it's my yetzer. It's every individual person. It feels like this is me, right? The Yetzer Hara is literally telling us, this is who we want to be and this is who we are, and it feels in a way so humbling and you have to be very you have to have like strong emunah and knowledge of what really is true to break through that. And eventually, as we go through it, Hashem kind of gives us more and more glimpses into the truth, and then it gets easier.
That's unification of Hashem.
Right.
That's unification that you're talking about.
Right, that's the unification, because it's happening on an individual level, but at the same time, on the macro level, each individual is doing his bit, which is the most real thing on an individual level, and that collectively is painting that picture of Hashem's unity on bit by bit. It actually reminds me of the Gemara that says that when Mashiach will come, Hashem will show everyone the Yetzer Hara. He'll show them the evil force that made them want to sin, and the tzaddikim will see it like a huge mountain, and the Rishayim will see it like a thin thread of hair. Right? Why? Because the tzaddikim actually overcame it. So they actually climbed the mountain, because the Yetzer Hara was real in this world. So we actually climbed the mountain. But the Rasha, he didn't actually overcome it. So he'll see the truth of what it is. It's literally just the thin hair. So it's the opportunity we have in this world is that a hair which isn't really real becomes a mountain, and we get the reward of climbing the mountain. We get Hashem's creating mountains that don't exist in order that we become fit, so to speak, in order that we have a journey to travel and receive the reward. You can have some a niggin. Chaim. Okay, so the Ramchal will take us through. I think today I'll adopt less of inside reading every word, because I feel like it isn't necessarily beneficial. Okay. And we'll kind of read a few lines and go into it a little bit and continue reading. So we'll start with Chelik Aleph, part 1. Ratzaha Ensof Baruch Hu, the Infinite One, Hashem Ensof, wanted Liot Beitiv Hatava Shlema. He wanted to do only good, and the good should be perfect and pure good. Sheratzah Leitiv B'Tachlit Hatava V'Shleimut, it should be a wholesome good. Shelo Yeh Afilu Bosher L'Mekablim Oto, as we said, it shouldn't be shameful to receive it. Kenyan She'amri brings a Gemara, a Yerushalmi, that says, Man da'achil the lav delay, if you eat something that isn't yours, bahitlis takule ba'ape, you're unable to look the person in the face. Now, like we said before, if reward would just be receiving money, I could just take the check and run. But because the reward is actually to be in an intimate relationship with Hashem, to be close to Hashem, then you can't live with someone that you're mooching off. Like, you could run away with it and do your own thing, but in order to develop a relationship with them, then it's going to feel like one-sided, and you're going to feel like you have nothing to offer, and it's going to become, it's going to lack in intimacy. It's going to be a one-way relationship. Right? It's like when someone does so much good and you want to help. It's like when we're taking up the stroller with my wife, and my 3-year-old's like, he wants to help. So like, he touches the wheel and he's like being a nuisance. Right. But the rest of the day he feels so big and helpful. There's this, nobody wants to be a waste of time. Right. Especially when you want to connect to someone, you want to have something to offer to them. Right. So therefore Hashem introduced the concept of work, of the need of service to Him. They should be merit through this service to good. It should become reward, not just a free giving of good.
But the interesting thing is that from our perspective, we think that it's a lacking of God, that He needs something that we need to boast of. But actually, God has created that illusion just for us.
Right. Exactly like the kid trying to help with the straw. We don't need him, but we want him to feel good. Right. So yeah, it's really crazy, because ultimately what the Ramchal is saying, and he's very strong about this, is that God doesn't need anything, and obviously that's true. You have recently there's a rabbi, Manis Friedman. Manis Friedman. So he's going around saying that Hashem needs us, and it's a big controversy. Yeah. YouTube rabbis attacking each other. And ultimately, obviously, on a theological, philosophical perspective, he's right. I mean, the ones attacking him are right, the Rav Mizrahi, whoever it is, that obviously God in His infinite reality doesn't need anything, because before He created the world, He was perfectly fine. But there's a place where once creation happened, God has a plan, and therefore, so need is philosophically is the wrong word, but on a human level, like in not even human, even in a sense, right? So for us, a desire is a need. Once we have a desire, then that's what do we need? We need what we desire. With God, it's kind of He created the need, and now He needs it, but He doesn't need it. He could remove that need. Yes, that's the. But I think in a way, where Maris Friedman's coming from is first of all because I mentioned last week that in Chabad Hasidus they focus the reason of creation being more about Hashem's want or desire to have a dwelling place in the lower worlds. So there it is more focused on Hashem's, still not need, but desire. Whereas Ramchal is purely focused on the humans. That there is nothing God gets from this. What He does get is only within the context that He created. So on a Hasidus level, which Hasidus kind of wants to focus on the relationship, wants to focus on the fact that it's a two-way thing. So there, Hasidus kind of emphasizes, like it would be worse to think that God doesn't need us than to think God needs us. So like in a way, you could say Manis Friedman is like, let's say it's a mistake, but it's a safer mistake to make than to live in a nihilistic reality where we're not needed and Hashem is just this superpower up there that doesn't need anything, and we're just almost you could say that service of God is self-service because He doesn't need anything. So who am I doing it for? Oh, so I should have good. So then if I decide I don't want good, then I can try not to do it. So in a way, saying that God needs us is important in that sense. And it's not necessarily untrue even according to Ramchal. It depends on what perspective you take it. So let's see inside. So Hashem created this new reality called the opposites of good and bad, and therefore there's choice, and therefore because I chose what I chose, there's either reward if I chose good or punishment if I chose bad. So now, Ramchal is going to go deeper into this idea of reward for good. Hashem had a plan that this oneness, this reward, should be connected to the oneness that we're revealing. Right? Hashem didn't want that the reward should be not connected to the work we're doing. It shouldn't be like an arbitrary agreement that where I say, I want to give you something, but I don't want to give it you for free because then you'll get spoiled. So let me make up a need that you're just doing something random, and then I'll give you the thing, but just the main thing is that you shouldn't have got it for free. But that wouldn't have been a perfect system because that would still be kind of a bit of a joke that you're saying, you're making up a need that is not connected at all to the reward. So that's why Hashem wanted the system to be a unified system where the work, the service, and the reward are linked together. So he says, Kine, Pashut, you could have said, Hashem could have said, you wake up in the morning, sneeze 10 times, and you get yisachar. So you did something, or anything random. You could have disconnected the work from the reward. From the deep supernal wisdom of the Creator, He wanted that the work should be connected as one entity with the reward. So now, what's he saying basically? He's saying very, very deep idea. He's saying Hashem created the world. Hashem revealed Himself in an imperfect way. Right? Hashem is infinitely good, infinitely perfect, but the world isn't perfect. But now, what is the greatest good? What is the greatest good Hashem could share with creations? Is to have a revelation of Hashem in His perfect state, to actually grasp or have some kind of grasp of His perfect ways. So
Moshe asked for.
Right. Hashem said we can't in this world get that because Ramchal talks about this actually in a different series. We'll get to that in a minute. So basically what he's saying is that that would be the perfect reward is to grasp our source of life, to feel that we're not removed from Hashem by being oblivious to His ways. So now what Hashem did was Hashem created the world with lacking, with imperfections, and He created us in that way as well. So now we have the 10 Sfirot. Hashem created the 10 Sfirot. These 10 Sfirot are split also into 613. Like the 10 Sfirot are the general structure, and then there's the limbs and the sinews that in the spiritual worlds as well come down to 613 different limbs. Now, these limbs are basically lacking Hashem's light. And now when a person comes into this world with 613 physical limbs, and we have a soul that is aligned, that has the same, on a spiritual level, has the same form as the 613 physical limbs. So now when we break through the physical barrier that seems to be focused on self-gratification and evil and all of these things that we're born with, all these the jealousy and the pride and the hatred and all these things that are human, and we use our body, we use all of these limbs to bring down light. So what we're doing essentially is we're bringing down light into the Sfirot. We're allowing the light that Hashem wants to give to be revealed. And now that's what happens. The 600,000 souls, 600,000 Jews, and every Jew has a spark of a nefesh chelek el which is a part of the Hashem's world, of Hashem's Sfirot. And every Jew has their part of bringing in the light into the 613 limbs of the higher worlds. And then there's that's then when a person eventually, so Ramchal tells us that we don't actually get to see this this light that we've brought down straight away. Right now, this light is still concealed. Why? Because we're still in the system of where light is not revealed. And Ramchal explains that we can't say that every person should receive their light that they created instantly. Because the way Hashem created it is that there's a period of time, you could say 6,000 years, where perfection isn't revealed. Yeah. So whenever every person when their soul has reached their perfection, meaning they've revealed the light that they can reveal, that's kind of stored away or not yet pending revelation. And then when every Jew and every one of the 600,000 souls has done their bit, then we'll be able to see the light that we created for ourselves. And then it won't be revealing a good for free. It will be the good that we actually created ourselves. So therefore, the reward is connected to the actual service, because the service is to reveal Hashem, and that is actually what we're going to receive as reward, because that is the greatest good. So it's very simple, to be honest, but it's really a life's work. I'm going to skip here a little bit, and we're going to continue. So here the Ramchal introduces a concept called the Tzimtzum. Now he doesn't go into it at all, he talks about it later on. But the Tzimtzum is basically the beginning of the contraction, right? Tzimtzum translates as contraction, where Hashem hid his light. And the Tzimtzum says in the Arizal was in the center of the light. Now, all the commentaries there, everyone in their own way try to understand what it means, the center of the light, because there was no center, because it was all just light. Like a center is a center of something contained, but if there's just light everywhere, where's the center? There's no beginning and no end. So Ramchal explains that the center is a conceptual center, which means it's the central focus of the light. So the light wants to reveal itself, but the light wants to reveal itself to the creations in a way that will be perfect for them. So therefore, the central focus of all of this light is to get to the Tzimtzum, to get to the place where Hashem Kiviyachol doesn't exist on a perfect level, and then that would be the place where creations can exist. And not only can they can exist in a way where they have a service to do, which then reverts back to the light. Now, this is an interesting question that lots of the commentaries ask on this. It's like, so really, what happened here, right? What we're doing? Hashem had perfect light, and then He created a contracted version of it.
When a person feels constricted, let's say sometimes, does it have to do with tzimtzum?
For sure. All types of constriction. Tzimtzum is like the source, before tzimtzum there was no concept of constriction. So every constriction we have is only made possible by the tzimtzum, right? Any type of low mood, any type of negative behavior, negative feelings, it's all rooted in the tzimtzum. But the tzimtzum still isn't negative. It's the source of where Hashem's light is now limited. It's not just pure good and pure happiness and shefa. And then as this conceptual limitation gradually evolves, so to speak, and goes down and further down, then it starts to become negative and bad, right? Because essentially the Baal Sulam is very strong in explaining this concept of the Tzimtzum, where he says that the Tzimtzum created light, right? Hashem is all light. Now, there is no creations there because it's all just Hashem. So what did the Tzimtzum do? The Tzimtzum created a self-awareness, or the light that sees itself as receiving from someone else, right? So the Ramchal calls it the will to receive, because when Hashem is only giving, there's no concept of receiving. So the creation of the Tzimtzum is the will to receive and the feeling that I need to receive. I want to receive and I need to receive. And this is the source of anything negative, because first of all, when a person focuses too much on their own need to receive, then that leads to destruction, because all they want is to receive and they're not taking into consideration anyone else's need to receive. So that leads to, ultimately that can lead to the worst behaviors. But it also leads to bad moods and feelings, because I feel like I'm lacking, right? So this is really the struggle of being human, where Hashem literally put us in a place where we don't feel that we're constantly alive and we don't need anything. He put us in a place on a psychological level as well, besides the conceptual spiritual level, where we feel this constant need and lack, and therefore, people turn to all kinds of behaviors and substances to fill that void, because the work we need to do is difficult, especially when we've trained ourselves to not do it right, and then we end up just basically following these patterns of kind of ignoring the way of actually filling the void, right? So that's really once we realize this, that really the odds are stacked against us, and Hashem created us in this imperfect way, and when we realize, I remember when I was like maturing as a teenager, every time I figured something out that was negative about my character, I would get like completely thrown off. Like I was like, whoa, that can't be true. I'll have to try and cover it up. And I think like eventually I realized that it's just the most beautiful thing. Okay, so this is how I was made, and this is what I need to work on. This is my opportunity. Like every challenge is an opportunity to not do it, to overcome it, to perfect it, right? Otherwise, what would we be doing here? So that's what Ramchal is telling us, that Hashem created imperfection. He created us in a sense of needing something that we don't have, and feeling like we want to just do it all, we want to live just for ourselves, and overcoming that sense of negative, of self-centeredness, and revealing that really our life force is all just Hashem, and all we want to do in this world is to reveal Hashem's light. And that's actually, once we realize that, once we actually create that reality for ourselves, we've created our own reality. So we basically make our own bed. We choose the reality that we want to live in. And it's not only Latid Lavo. Ramchal says mainly it's Latid Lavo, but even on a day-to-day basis, the more we refine our character, the more we get to know Hashem's world, the more we stop focusing in on ourselves, then our horizons expand. We don't feel so empty. We don't feel so dark, right? I think the more self-centered a person is, the more chance they get to be, the more chances of depression is likely in their life. Because if you think about it, this person has no value in the bigger context of the world because he's not offering much to the world. All he's doing is looking after himself. So he's basically caring for himself, and himself is not really a reason to care for because he's a waste of time. So he gets no real inherent value and fulfillment from their life. So the only way out of that, and this is really what Ramchal tells us inside somewhere in Hebrew, that's the process of bad being proven, self-proving itself as a dead end. Because when there's no inherent oneness and this unification process, then eventually it just dies out. And that's when people, I think that's like the journey of childhood through teenagehood and young adulthood to realize that, okay, this is all just going nowhere. And then you just have to realize what there is really going on. And that's the journey of the Jewish soul, to go into bad, to realize there's nothing there, to realize the only option is to perfect ourselves, to bring Hashem into the world, and bring Mashiach now.